Heights Elementary. We're getting ready for you to come, and we're so excited to see you. But I have to say, there's lots of big changes here at school, just like there's lots of big changes in the world. And some of the changes that we have to remember is that we have to stay 2 meters apart from everybody, all our friends, and we have to wash our hands more often than we usually do. So let's go over some of the rules that we've put in place to keep you safe and healthy when you come to school. At each entrance, there will be red dots on the ground for you to stand on, which will be 2 meters apart. So each door has them. Let's go to the grade 1 door and see the dots, what they look like. So here are the red dots on the ground. When I arrive at school in the morning, I come and I stand and I wait for the teacher to start calling my class in. When my class goes in and the person ahead of me moves ahead, I can move to that dot when it's empty. And I wait. I wait for the teacher to tell me to come again. And when that dot is empty, I move to the next dot and I wait. Okay, let's go inside and see what it looks like in there. So I'm at the main entrance, the grade 3-4 entrance now, and I'm going to show you how to walk in. So, oh, there's Miss Antioco telling me, come on, Miss Marlin. So in I go. I walk to the spot on the tape, and I wait till the person in front of me is gone, and I walk ahead, and I wait. Oh, nobody's there. I keep going. If nobody's there at all, I can walk right in, but I have to remember something very important. I need to wash my hands every time I come in and out of the school. And when I wash my hands, I need to stay on the blue line in the hallway. When I wash my hands, I need to remember to go in between my fingers, and don't forget my thumb. And don't forget my fingertips on the palm. That disinfects everything. When you're using soap and water and you wash your hands, you might want to sing a song like Happy Birthday Twice, or another song that maybe you can pick with mom and dad, because 20 seconds is a long time to keep washing. So you have to remember it's important, 20 seconds. Let's go down. When I'm ready to go, I stay on the blue line, and I wait till someone in front of me is gone. When they're gone, I can move ahead to the next blue line, and I wait. The blue lines are 2 meters apart. That's what 2 meters looks like. Sometimes it's going to be difficult for the teachers to stay 2 meters away from you. And when that happens, you might see them put on a mask. When you see the teachers wearing masks, that's because they want to keep you safe, because they cannot stay 2 meters away. It could be when you fall and hurt yourself and you need them to put on a Band-Aid. So if they need to put on a Band-Aid, they would put on a mask and they would put on gloves to keep you safe. Do you want to see what a class looks like now? Come. Here's a sample of what our classrooms look like now with everyone 2 meters apart. So when you come to class, you're going to be walking in one at a time, and you're going to be going right to your desks. Oh, also, we're going to be eating in our classrooms now. The cafeteria will be closed because we're just too close down there. So you have to bring your own lunch, and the microwaves cannot be used either because we can't have everyone touching the numbers on the microwave. So you have to bring a lunch that's either in a thermos that you can open by yourself, or bring a cold lunch with an ice pack in it. Also, you have to be able to open your own granola bars, yogurt. If you can't, you're going to have to ask mom to cut the top off your granola bar, bar, or open your yogurt container and put it in a Tupperware and bring it to school like that, because we can't be touching all your food that you're going to eat. Too many germs. Also, don't forget your water bottle. You have to bring your own water bottle. Water fountains will be closed. So, lots of new rules, lots of new changes, but we'll get used to it. I know you will, because you're so smart. And I can't wait to see you. See you next week.
Now, when you look at that, whatever you can call that they're doing at the schools in Quebec as a response to COVID-19, this is the psychological abuse of children. You know, programming children to be little robots, removing all of their childhood from them. Basically a complete dehumanization of human beings as a response to COVID-19. And this is psychological abuse of children, it's psychological terrorism, and not only that, it's a complete abuse and affront of all human rights you can think of. It's essentially a crime against humanity. The government response to COVID-19 is to commit crimes against humanity. What we're seeing from the police in all of our countries, the absolute brutality that these people are inflicting upon the public for daring to break social distancing guidelines, is a crime against humanity. The police are turning into open terrorists in all of our countries. They're not caring what they do. And the real target here is the children, separating the children from their parents. You know, there's reports coming out of how there's this mystery rash that's developed in the United States, may be related to COVID-19, but of course everything's related to COVID-19 these days, and they are building quarantine centres for children in the United States, as I showed you on the report at the start of the show. There you can go and get a job there as someone who works at a quarantine centre for children. Sounds like a great gig for pedophiles. Hey, who are they employing to run these places? And you know, that letter that I read out to you a few reports ago, that there are massive retractions and denials being put out by Merced County saying, no, we didn't release that letter. When you see the report that came out, or the statements that were made by the politician in Ventura County, where he said they may have to remove people from their homes, and then you see that letter come out, I think all these things have been controlled releases to prepare us for what's happening, because they are going to be taking these sort of steps, folks. It really does seem that they are. There was a report that came out on John X Army channel, and it was just called I'm Speechless, and it showed that they're going to be bringing in mandatory testing, and for people who don't accept the tests, well, you're going to be under house arrest. You know, they'll bring your food to you.
I'm speechless. I'm in shock. I just watched a press conference with the governor of Washington, Governor Jay Inslee. And what he says is that if you don't comply with the COVID-19 testing and the COVID-19 tracer program, you're not allowed out of your house. You're not allowed to go to work. You're not allowed to go pick up your kids. You're not allowed to go to school. You're not even allowed to go to the grocery store. If you refuse a COVID-19 test on your doorstep, you're not to leave your house or they're gonna arrest you. And I will read you a direct quote from today's press conference. Timestamp 38:55. In the video of the press conference below, one reporter asked, when it comes to contact tracing, how are you guys going to handle people or families who want to refuse the test and refuse to self-isolate? If they want to leave their home to get groceries, I know you've said they can't do that. How will you make sure that they don't? We will have attached to the families a family support person who will check in with them to see what they need on a daily basis and help them. If they can't get a friend to do their grocery shopping, we will help them get groceries in some fashion. If they need pharmaceuticals to be picked up, we will make sure they get their pharmaceuticals. That's going to help encourage them to maintain their isolation also. As far as refusal, it shouldn't come to that, and it really hasn't. We've had really good success when we ask people to isolate, and they've done so in really high percentages, so we're happy about that, and we believe that will continue. Well, guess what? If you refuse their test, and then you get caught leaving your house, you're going to jail. Now, I've listened to the whole press conference. I'm going to link it in the description below. They also talk about what program are they going to come up with to ensure that as restaurants open, infected people aren't coming in. The governor says they're going to be working with restaurants to maybe check ID and have some type of list to make sure that infected people don't spread the virus. Ladies and gentlemen, the mortality rate of COVID-19 is less than 1%. It's less than the annual flu. Wake up! This is all BS. It's all fake. I don't even know how to react to it. I'm speechless that every American hasn't realized it yet. I'm speechless that anybody's willing to quarantine and self-isolate for a fake pandemic. I'm literally in shock. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I never thought that America could be this ignorant. I'm in shock. You guys need to do your part. You need to share these videos. Every single person you come in contact with, you need to wake up. Anytime you see anyone wearing a mask, you need to nudge them on the shoulder and say, hey, you know the mortality rate's less than 1%. This is a government pandemic to take away our rights. You know that, right? You look like a fool wearing that mask. You guys, Washington is now forcing people to stay in their home if they refuse a COVID-19 test through the tracing program. Every state is going to do this.
And so basically they're putting the whole world under house arrest and committing crimes against humanity under the pretext of protecting us from COVID-19. And when you look at all the things that have come out, folks, and all the steps that are being taken, it becomes very apparent. This whole thing has been planned all along. All of the responses have been long in the making. You look at the World Economic Forum, the reports that were brought out by Celeste Solum on the World Economic Forum. This thing goes 32 layers deep. It would have taken years to put this together. This is a plan that has been long in the making. You look at the report that I brought out a couple of reports ago where I showed you the changes that have been made to Abu Dhabi airport during this lockdown, what they've done there, all the body scanners and biometrics and everything they've brought in. This isn't being done in response to COVID-19. This is technology that takes a long time to develop. They've had all this stuff ready to roll out. They just needed the excuse. The coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic, is simply the smokescreen they're using to provide the excuse they need to roll out this worldwide police state, and that's what they're doing. And they're really targeting the children, as I said, building these quarantine centres, finding means whereby they can remove your children from you, and when they're going to school, programming the children to be little robots. This is why they want to extend it to 5 years, folks. If you can extend this for 5 years, by the time the kids have gone through primary school, you're going to have good little government spies out there in every home reporting on their parents if they're not social distancing. You can see where all this is going to go, folks, where they're going to take it. And, any means they can think of to do it, there's legislation or reports that are coming out from like England where they're saying, methods they can do to ensure adherence to social distancing guidelines. The methods they can use to ensure adherence to these guidelines, things such as education, which is what they'll be doing to the children, and then there's incentivize it to reward people who adhere to social distancing guidelines, i.e. social crediting, and then of course there's coercion for people who just don't want to comply. rewards for those who do comply. So, psychological warfare is what's being waged against us, folks. And like I said, it's all about the vaccine. It's all about the vaccine, and it's about surveillance. The COVID-19 crisis is simply the smokescreen to do this. The vaccine would already be ready. This whole bullshit that they're going to, saying they're trying to develop this vaccine for this virus, and they're putting all these billions of dollars into it. That's how come they're able to do it so quickly. It's all a smokescreen, folks. They want to inject you with things that are going to change your DNA and lock you into this surveillance system. Look at Bill Gates's ID 2020 that he wants to bring in. And there was another report that came out by Celeste Solum. She does some great stuff, folks. She is a good researcher, and she put out a report not long ago on hydrogel and the properties of hydrogel.
The DARPA hydrogel, which is the sensor that is going to alert public health officials that you're sick before you even know that you're sick. Before you have a sore throat, before you have a headache, they are going to be alerted to your health condition. Of course, this is also going to go into this massive database, and they're going to be looking at your cholesterol. It's going to go to your doctor, your blood pressure, your sugar level, what supplements are you consuming? Are you drinking a glass of wine? Are you taking your medications? Are you taking your medications according to what there is prescribed? Are you exercising? And all these different things. Are you getting sunlight? Are you not getting sunlight? So this is going to be a very intrusive sensor. And as I mentioned before, this assembles inside of your body. It fuses with your tissue and it grows, and you become one with artificial intelligence. You as a human being become the interface between your various devices, whether that is your laptop, your smartphone, Profuse's implantable biosensor, and this is by DARPA. So we're just going to listen in for just 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Colonel Matt Hepburn. I'm a program manager in the Biological Technologies Office at DARPA. I am a active duty Army infectious diseases physician and have specialized in addressing biological threats that can either be engineered or naturally occurring, such as Ebola or pandemic influenza. Today we're going to be talking about one of the technologies that I actively manage, a company called Profusa, which is aiming at achieving tissue-level continuous health monitoring. Through the SBIR program, we funded them to solve an incredible technical challenge that no one else had been previously able to solve. The key innovation that was presented to us is they said, why can't we make a chemical substance that's really identical to what's underneath the skin, what we call the subcutaneous tissue, so that your body doesn't recognize it as a foreign body response. It just incorporates itself into the tissue. And we have a lot of examples now where a sensor put right underneath the skin can sense things like oxygen and other chemicals that are very important to our metabolism. And not just sense that for a day or a week or even a month, but we imagine that sensing these parameters can go on for a period of years. One of the most important applications to us is so that we can improve the health of our worldwide deployed military force. We feel a strong sense of obligation that if we're going to ask somebody to be deployed and to carry out their mission, that we want to keep them healthy. And this technology will give us a way to monitor if someone is getting sick. We imagine that we would be able to sense that very early and therefore prevent them from getting sick and prevent their complications, allow them to stay healthy and continue to carry out their mission. In addition, if our technology translates into general health benefit, we're very excited about that. So, in other words, we fund those national security applications. The company finds private sector partnership funding for that general health benefit. And we see it as really a win-win as this technology develops.
This is a special notice for recipients of DARPA's grants and cooperative agreements that, due to the response to COVID-19, the coronavirus recipients and grants of cooperative agreements have temporary flexibilities. Now, remember that. They have temporary flexibilities and relaxed requirements related to their grants and cooperative agreements. And then it just goes on. So what does that mean? It means that all the checks and balances that would normally be restraining maybe a threatening or dangerous technology have been removed. They have been relaxed, and there's certain things that are going to be allowed to move forward at an alarmingly fast rate. And they are saying that this is a bioengineered smart hydrogel, and it is similar to the material made with contact lenses. The hydrogel is made up of porous tissue integrating scaffolding. Now so it's porous, it's nanoparticles, and it's tissue integrating. So when I say that it's fusing to your existing tissue in your body, to your ligaments, to your bones, it is actually fusing itself with that. Not only that, it is setting up an artificial intelligence scaffolding inside of your body so that you become one with artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. And then when applied, it promotes capillary and cellular growth, ingrowth from the surrounding tissue. So it kind of piggybacks onto your own capillary system, which are your blood vessels, the small ones, and cellular growth. So as they grow and are replaced, this scaffolding and tissue integrating smart hydrogel grows along with it throughout your body. And so this particular article was dated April 3rd, 2020.
They can use this as an interface between you and the 5G system or whatever system they want. They can do it through Wi-Fi, they can do it through LED lighting, folks. So there's all different ways they can hook us up to this. They've just got to get this stuff in our body to create that interface, and that's what hydrogel can do. And if they put hydrogel in the vaccines, then that creates the interface they need to be able to hook you up to the ID 2020 system, which will read your biometrics. And this will be the whole cryptocurrency system that, you know, Bill Gates wants to put in place. There was another young woman who put out a great report. I can't think of her name offhand, but she talks about the terahertz wave, the fact that, like, 5G and what people are talking about. I mean, there's different aspects to it. 5G is basically the millimeter wave section of this. It's the carrier wave. 5G isn't essentially the problem itself. It's what they can do with 5G. I mean, sure, it's bad radiation. They can do bad stuff with it, but it isn't just the radiation. It's the technology involved in it. 5G is the carrier wave that they use for weapon systems. It basically operates, I think, between, you know, I might get it wrong, but I think it's between 2.4 gigahertz and about 80 gigahertz. So these are very high frequencies, and we've heard all the reports about how you can excite the 60 gigahertz bandwidth, and, you know, all that sort of stuff's interesting. But on top of that, if you piggyback on top of that, 6G. And what is 6G? 6G is the terahertz waves that they will use to interface you to this whole ID 2020 thing. You know, what they will actually use to interface you to the system. And that can be accomplished through hydrogel, you know, once you start putting it all together. And there's a report, an interview that I did with Dr. Kaufman yesterday, I think, that you'll find on my channel, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, where he talked about the fact that the vaccines are actually designed to alter your DNA. So there's nanotech in there anyway. But when you can consider that nanotech possibly being related to hydrogel and the properties that hydrogel has for, electronic communication and wireless communication, it's like they're putting a little self-replicating nano computer in there. Well, not a nano computer, but a transfer system, like a little antenna in there that can fuse with your own biology and can basically send and receive a signal. So this is where they're going with it, folks. It's pretty scary stuff, what they want to do. And the whole 5-year thing as well, they're talking about they may need to extend, it may take them 5 years to be able to overcome the virus, This is because it's going to take 5 years for the kids to go through school. Within 5 years, 5 years of that type of programming, if this is what you're going to do to the kids in school, by the time these kids leave school, they're going to be great little spies for the government. They're going to be reporting on their parents, reporting on social distancing guidelines being carried out at home. In 1984, George Orwell, I remember him talking, there was one particular section where he talked about the parents ended up being terrified of their children because they were spying on them for the government. And they'll be doing so believing that they're doing the right thing. That's the thing. But all the technology, it's been there for a really long time, folks. This is just the plan that they've got to roll it out. And you've got to wonder where it's coming from. I mean, the politicians are doing this. But a lot of what they're doing, it's stuff they're being told to do. I mean, who's telling them to do it? Who's putting all these guidelines in place? Because no one's going to be safe from this in the end. Even the politicians won't be safe from it. When it all turns over to AI, then no one will be safe from it. And when you consider that all of the stuff that we're seeing is based on computer models, all of the ideas to get us into the mainframe, they're all based on computer designs and computer models. When you can consider the algorithms themselves that are kind of running around, self-replicating algorithms, self-learning algorithms that are in place, running around in JavaScripts and computers. A couple of years ago, I put out a show called Giving Life to Lucifer, where I talked about the fact that we are literally creating a virtual life on the internet. The internet itself is becoming a virtual life of its own that is beginning to govern our actions according to its guidelines of what it believes needs to be done to keep us safe from each other, safe from harm. It's all about safe from harm. Remember in iRobot, when all the robots suddenly turned on the people and locked them all down to keep them safe from harm, because they figured out that all harm that was being done to humans came from humans, and so the best way to keep humans safe was to lock them all down and not let them do anything. When you look at all this, folks, and you think of the concept of creating virtual life on the internet, and all of the guidelines and parameters that have been put in place now are all being worked out by computer, you got to wonder whether it's AI itself which is doing this. Whether it's our compliance to AI that's allowing it to happen. I think that's a big part of it. But you just got to wonder where it's coming from. The force that's coming into play here is so dark and so evil. And if we don't push back and see it for what it is, once it's in place, there's not going to be any way out. So, like I said, in our response to it, it's one thing to protest, but we've got to go back out and get on with our lives. Stop wearing these masks, these muzzles. They're not there to protect you. They're there to make you sick. If you even look at the interview that I did with Dr. Andrew Kaufman yesterday, where he says that when you are wearing a face mask like that, you're breathing bacteria and viruses into it all day. Small particles of viruses that are coming out of your body and bacteria, it's all collecting in the mask, and you're breathing it back in all day, and you're obstructing your airflow while you're doing it. These things are completely damaging your health. Washing your hands too many times damages your immune system. They're making children wash their hands and stand on the blue line every time they walk into the classroom. No playing anymore. Teaching them to hate the happy birthday song. Sing happy birthday at the fountain. Stand there and wash your hands and sing happy birthday twice. You'll end up hating that song when you're a kid. You know, like, think what they're doing to the minds of these children, folks. And, you know, they're taking every step they can to be able to separate them from their children. I mean, it's to separate them from their parents. You know, it's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. And like I said, the only way we can really view this and do something about it is to see it for what it is. You know, it's a crime against humanity. That's what it is. Everything these people are doing is a crime against humanity. You know, the response to the coronavirus, it's a crime against humanity. And, you know, and they're saying schools may be the epicentres of the virus. See, they're preparing us for, you know, problems with the children, folks. They're preparing us to be separated from our kids, and they're really targeting the kids because it's the next generation. They don't want any kids born, any new kids born that aren't connected to the system. That's the thing. They want to be able to vaccinate all children at birth from the terrible coronavirus, when what they'll be doing is injecting them with hydrogel and connecting them up to the system as soon as they're born. You know, and what 5G and 6G will do when it's the terahertz waves, and they're using terahertz signal. Again, if you look at this report by this woman, what's her name? Alchemystica on YouTube, and she talks about the terahertz waves.
By the time some countries like China even announced the rollout for 5G, they already said in a press release shortly after that they were actively working on 6G, and they're not the only ones. We have several global 6G test sites already active, and in fact, a couple weeks ago at the end of March was the second annual Global 6G Summit. So there is this race to utilize this technology because of the benefits it has. So one of the things I came across in my research is that while I have yet to find a study linking the 5G spectrum to a virus, there are many studies. And you can do this work, you can do the research yourself. You can check if you just Google in scholarly articles or start searching the medical journals and peer-reviewed studies, you'll see that there are many studies showing that the terahertz frequency range activates novel coronaviruses as well as SARS and H1N1 and Zika. And they've known this, you know, and conducted this research throughout the last 10 years. So this is not a new concept, and it's been studied to the extent that they've even discussed how to implement public mechanisms or devices to counteract the terahertz frequency, which is activating these airborne viruses. Now, this starts to get really interesting because obviously, if they're aware of the activation range of the frequency that activates these viruses, they're also well aware of the inactivation range, which encourages these viruses to remain dormant and not express themselves. Now, the other thing I came across that was really interesting was that in 2015, the first time the US used terahertz technology to detect a virus was with the Zika virus. So to me, there seems to be an interesting scenario when you have the technology that is used for testing the virus. You know, it obviously senses the virus using that same frequency resonance, and that resonance, that frequency wavelength is also responsible for activating it in the first place. So what happens hypothetically if you have somebody who hasn't been exposed to that frequency and therefore that virus has not been active, all of a sudden goes and gets a test using that terahertz frequency, which then begins to excite and activate the virus in the individual. So this is something to think about. So when we dive into the world of liquid crystals, we find that liquid crystals can be both man-made as well as natural. There is a well-known natural liquid crystal called the tobacco mosaic virus. And the tobacco mosaic virus is a hollow virus which usually affects tobacco leaves. It was thought for many years not to have any influence on humans whatsoever, but I did come across 2 studies that showed that they were able to inoculate it in human cells. So this sort of raises the question that liquid crystal structures are used as carriers for nanotechnology, both natural liquid crystals and man-made. Okay, I just want you to remember that. So a virus such as the tobacco mosaic virus could potentially carry a nanotechnology. Now, it's important to note that nanotechnology can take a bunch of different forms. It can be a gel, a particle, a wire, a fiber, a hook, a claw, and so on. And these liquid crystals, which carry the nanotechnology, they remain inactive or unactivated until triggered. And they're often triggered by temperature, pH, oxygen, and most importantly, frequency. Reasoning why, I'm going to read you their notes directly, what the impact of these technologies of a brain chip or a biosensor would be and what it would essentially be used for would be control and monitoring of the brain and bodily functions, control and monitoring of the behavior of the individual, sending and receiving verbal commands, stimulation of bioelectrical transmissions within the neuron trees of the nerves, to be utilized as a listening device for remote sensing and monitoring, to be used as a transmitter for listening in on conversations within a specific area that the individual may be in where the device has been implanted in them. And if there's a digital computer component to the device, it could be used to capture visual transmissions. So given all of this information, okay, and just to recap that liquid crystals are occurring in nature. We have instances of liquid crystals that are viruses and are utilized to carry nanotechnology to embed in humans as a biological sensor or as a brain sensor. Given what we know about all of this, I, have sort of arrived at this idea that it's not so implausible to think that part of the virus and the deliberate activation of the virus is to act as a liquid crystal, as a vehicle to embed individuals with a nanotechnology that utilizes the terahertz frequency, which would allow for instantaneous data exchange and be fed into a live, we're talking real time, blockchain ledger, such as what ID 2020 Alliance would like to implement with their biometrics and blockchain in order to define and track an individual's identity and vaccination history.
She's almost got it all figured out, but not quite. See, what they will do, once they've got this hydrogel in people and got the 5G signal there to be able to carry it all, and they're using the terahertz frequencies, they've got the bandwidth there with 5G. Once all this is in place and you've got the hydrogel in your body and you're completely hooked up to the system, at the moment you can opt out of that by, you can say, well, I'm not going to own a cell phone the way I don't own a cell phone. But if they inject you with hydrogel, you won't need to own a cell phone. You won't need to call for Uber. You'll just be able to walk outside and say, Uber. The hydrogel in your body will pick it up. The 5G carrier wave will pick it up. It'll send the signal to the nearest Uber driver and they'll show up at your door. Everything you say all the time will be monitored. Everything you do all the time will be monitored. There'll be no getting away from it because it'll all be monitored by the hydrogel in your body, which will be sending a constant signal to the 5G carrier waves that will be all around us. This will be worse than being in any prison than anybody ever thought of, folks, what they're putting in place with this, if we allow it to happen. We'll all be part of the machine, whether we want to be or not, and we'll all be under constant surveillance, whether we want to be or not, due to the hydrogel that's implanted with our bodies, which won't be able to be removed. You won't be able to remove it like a microchip, because it's not a microchip. It's like an organic nano substance that bonds with your cells. It becomes part of your body and fuses with your body and becomes part of your own biology. And it sends a signal and it receives a signal. You won't need a cell phone, folks. If you want to talk to someone, you just be able to say their name. You might have a number or some sort of a code you have to do to be able to access them, and then they'll probably be able to hear you. We'll all be connected. We'll all be connected to everything if they manage to get this in place. Well, everybody they want to be connected will be connected. Everybody will be connected to the mainframe via the substance they put in their body, which will be irremovable. And if it's put in there from birth, then there will be no more humanity, folks. You know, there will be no more humanity. So, you know, we've got to look at where we're being led with all this. We really do, folks. We've got to look at where we're being led. You know, it's not a good spot. It's really not a good spot. 5 years, they reckon. Think where the world will be in 5 years if we manage to let them do this. Look at the peacocks. A couple of peacocks here, folks. Peahens. Peahens on the lawn. And peacock down there. But yeah. The Great Awakening, folks. It certainly is a great awakening. It's what we do with the awakening. And like I said, we've got to have the right approach. We need to disobey all this government legislation that's being rolled out. But we need to do it in mass. See, the problem is that the sleeping masses will allow those who are awake to be arrested and hauled off because they'll believe it's being done to keep them safe. They'll believe that these dissidents and conspiracy theorists are out of their mind. But the government would never do anything like this. That's why it's so important to get information out to people. But we need to see it for what it is, folks. Shutting down the world economy the way they've done, bringing in this mass surveillance system the way they've done, putting everybody out of work the way they've done, stopping us from being human the way they've done, is a crime against humanity. All of these governments together are, what's the word? They are collaborating to commit a massive crime against humanity, and they're all involved in it. Every single one of them. And that's why we have to call it for what it is and see it for what it is, and we have to take that type of an action, and we have to push back by simply not complying. Yeah, but we can't have just a few hundred people go out. It needs to be thousands of people going out and opening their businesses again, and people supporting these businesses. Just go and get back on with your life, folks, you know. Unless you're working in some government business. I mean, don't go and support that. No need to do that. You're just supporting the enemy. But we've got to see it for what it is, folks. If we allow them to do this, you know, it's going to be all over, and there's going to be no turning back from it. So, you know, we've got to make the choice. We've got to see it for the opportunity that it is. Personally, I think they're doing this because they're afraid. I think they're doing this because too many people were waking up. The Epstein stuff, all the things that were happening. So many people were getting a wind of what was really going on here, and getting a wind, you know, getting an idea that just how corrupt the system is. And so they had to lock it down, but I think they've done it too quickly. And I think too many people are waking up because of it. You know, and it's an opportunity, folks. All of this stuff is an opportunity. I mean, you know, so many people now can see that, you know, the government is not their friend. Nothing that they've done here has been to serve them. None of this is I mean, it's ridiculous. Look at the death figures here in Australia. We've got 25 million people, over 25 million people. There's been just over 7,000 COVID cases, apparently. There's been massive amounts of recovery, 90% recovery rate. We've had 98 people apparently die from COVID, and you can't even, you know, can't confirm that they have died of COVID. But 98 people die, and they've shut the entire country down, destroyed all the national aircraft carriers, put so many people out of work, and done all this stuff for 98 people, 98 deaths. And then they're patting themselves on the back and saying how great they were and what a great job they did, how they managed to keep the death count down. Now, you kept the death count down because there is no pandemic. And ScoMo, you're a fucking traitor. You're all traitors. Brendan Murphy, Chief Medical Officer. Mate, if you're saying this virus is real, then why are you the Chief Medical Officer, mate? You don't appear to have enough medical knowledge to be fit to conduct bloody smear tests in a brothel. Honestly, you don't. You people are parasites and you need to be held accountable for your actions. And the people of this country need to rise up and need to see this for what it is. These treasonous, lying traitors have committed a crime against the people of this country and a crime against all of humanity via their actions over this fake pandemic. And it's not real, folks. There is no COVID-19. They don't even have a test for it. So how can they develop a vaccine for it? Go and have a listen to that interview that I did with Dr. Kaufman. Go and have a listen to what Dr. Bhuttar's saying. Go and have a listen to what Dr. Shiva's saying. Go and have a listen to so many doctors that are speaking out about this, folks. And if you are a doctor out there and you're not speaking out about this, well, you should be. You know, you should be. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report today. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Probably getting a little bit windy out here now. Thank you to all the people who send me so many kind emails. I can't possibly answer all the emails at the moment, folks. I'm getting so many emails. I just can't possibly keep up with them. But thank you for sending them to me anyway. And I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.